Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for and welcome to this wonderful distillery, Rosebank Distillery.
That's what I've got to say.
I'm Gordon Dundas, I'm your host and MC for the evening, but I'm not really going to be saying much. You're going to be hearing a lot more from this gentleman next to me, Leonard Russell. I know that you cannot wait to see this distillery. We're all very excited to show it to you. But I want to introduce Leonard Russell of Ian Macleod Distillers, Leonard, and of course Malcolm Rennie, the Distillery Manager, who has set this whole up and made the spirit that we now produce. So I'm going to hand over to these two gentlemen.
I need to put the microphone down a bit. Welcome to Rosebank, and thank you all for coming, really. This place was first built in 1840, or at least I hope it was, because we printed that on the chimney. Yeah. So if there are any historians, just let us wait a minute. It was about 1840 on the iconic chimney. And sadly, I'm going to make this chronologically. I'm going to do it quite quickly. So in 1993, 150 odd years later, the place was sadly shut because the whisky industry was going through a difficult time, and this distillery was owned by the Distillers Company Limited, which is now Diageo. And they closed quite a lot of their smaller, less efficient distilleries back in the late 80s and early 90s, which was a very sad thing. And I remember at the time thinking that was such a shame, but it was really because it was low yield, and at that time businesses were looking for economies of scale, and so this place was a terrible casualty of that time. And so Diageo, or DCL, sold the distillery to the British Waterways Board, which is now called Scottish Canals. And I think there was also an agreement that no whisky would be distilled here for 25 years. So I was driving past with my son, and I was doing some mental maths about 1993 plus 25 made 2018, and this was 2017. And I thought, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. And so we managed to acquire the site and also the brand name from Diageo through exchanging some stocks and kidnapping their dogs. So we got the brand name back, and then our whole team, this is where things made me quite emotional, is the number of people. We pulled together the finest team that you can possibly get. My grandmother said, if you're going to do something, do it properly. And so we did. And it went 3 times over budget. So thanks. Thanks for that. But look, there's a lot of glass. I'd like to get the window cleaner. Could I get the window cleaner contract? I think, yeah. Oh yes, so it's not exactly the same as it was before because some of the walls fell down, but amazingly we got the original plans for the stills from when the place was first built back in 1840 or so, and so we've had the same stills made again, and you'll notice that they're weird shapes, but that's how I can't do better than that. That's what we. But Malcolm's done a fantastic job because he's making a spirit which is just spectacularly fantastic out of those stills. So now I have to thank people, which is annoying because I often miss people out, and I get more abuse from missing people out than adding them in. But I obviously need to thank the people in our business who really make the whisky. Gordon Dr. Malcolm Rennie here, who is just technical term, genius. And Robbie Hughes, who also knows a lot about whisky apparently. And then Colin Towner, our health and safety guy, he's had a lot to do here. And Willie Cairns, who's an outrageously good project engineer. Mike Younger, our financial director, who managed to speak to the banks about us going 3 times over budget. And then, of course, what I would really like, the people I'd really like to thank are you, actually. The local community have been really positive, engaging and enthusiastic about this. And it's marvellous how many people, I didn't know that I had so many friends that originally came from Falkirk, but the smell of the distillery when they waited for the bus is what they talk about a lot. And I'm just incredibly happy and proud that we've done it. We're here. There are other people I've got. I need to thank Jeremy Scott because he did sent us the invoices, but he did the way that they've used recycled so much of the the flooring, the bricks, the walls are original. They have done. I think we ought to give him a round of applause. Actually, him and his associates. We're all teams here. We're all teams, and yeah. Also, I'm excited about bringing more tourism to Falkirk because Falkirk's already got the Helix and the Falkirk Wheel, and I think that together the three of us can be like the 3 musketeers of Falkirk, really, and build some synergy. And then, of course, I have to thank Falkirk Council and VisitScotland and all of the other public sector bodies who've been so supportive and enthusiastic about what we're doing, which in a world where people seem to criticise and be victims, I think that it's been really heartwarming the way that things have gone. So, Malcolm's not speaking. So I need to give them some warning about this because this is the big reveal, and we've got secret words that I'm going to say. So, Rachel, drop the curtain. So thank you very much and enjoy your evening. And Gordon's back.
Thank you, Leonard. So now we're going to start the fun. You're going to wander around this beautiful distillery. So you're going to see all aspects. You're going to see everything from the mill all the way through production. You're going to see some of our VIP rooms. So how are we going to do this? You're probably wondering. We're not going around in one big group, I can tell you that. So look down on your lanyard, you will have a number. And those who have number 1 are tour 1, etc., all the way through to tour 10. So it's quite a tight schedule. So those in the first tour group are numbered 1. You will be with Ernst, who's going to take you on your tour.
So that's the launch, and now the hard graft of touring has to commence tonight. What's your name, sir?
Andy.
Andy, you're doing some of the tours.
Yes, I absolutely am. I can't wait to get stuck in. Rosebank is my life. It is a wonderful, wonderful brand. Wonderful that it's came back to life and reawoken.
So you guys have had to learn all the facts and figures, all the litres, all the tons.
Every single one of them is deep inside of my head. There I go.
Okay, name, sir?
I'm Dominic. It's lovely to meet you.
Right, Dominic, we're going out in numbers. What number are you tonight?
I believe I'm 6.
Okay, so
Five,
you're taking
5, 6, 5 or 6.
5, 6. That's quite important. Is it 5? Is it 6? But this,
It's behind this fella. That's all that matters.
give us the tonnage it goes into grist that goes into the mash tun.
3.2.
Oh, 3.2. All these figures. Listen, I've got to learn them as well. But listen, it's more about stories. What your name, sir?
I'm Jamie.
Jamie. So you're looking forward to taking people around tonight?
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
You've done the facts and figures, but it's not about facts. I'm just having a joke. Stories. What a story this is.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to be a part of it. I moved through to Falkirk in 2020, just up the road, and I was like, oh, what's that? Distillery, that looks like fun. So, yeah, it's been a long road to get here, but I'm looking forward to being part of the brand and the family.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant. And your name, sir?
I'm Callum.
Callum, that's about the facts and figures, it's about the story, it's also about the whisky.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Have you had a obviously we're working tonight. I'll let it out.
That's a trap question.
Have you had a chance to sample some of the Rosebank?
In the past, I've tried a little bit, but again, not tonight. No, sadly.
No, but in the past.
Yeah.
It's
lovely.
Yep.
Definitely.
And we're having some tonight. There's some of the.
I've heard that there's been, I think it's a 32 that you're trying tonight, and then also maybe something special at the end. I think.
Right,
So,
yes. Might be another
Yeah.
a wee year.
something here or
Yeah,
there.
it could be a wee year further up. Yeah.
Something.
So, guys, I'm going to ask you, anybody listen to this, think they come to Scotland this year, make the case for Rosebank?
Oh, definitely. So Rosebank is a part of history, but it's not just a part of history. It is something modern that is happening right now, and it is also something incredibly vital to Falkirk as well. Falkirk's an incredible place. I don't think it's on the map enough as it should be. People think Edinburgh, they think Glasgow. Falkirk's right in the middle, and you've got so much going on around it as well. Falkirk wheel, chemical piece, everything like that.
That's brilliant. And Jamie, your favourite part of the distillery? Once they come to Falkirk, you've been a good case for it. They come here. What would you say? What is going to impress people?
Well, Rosebank's kind of more, it's a distillery, but it's very oriented towards the visitor experience. So obviously, if you go to like Glengoyne or Tamdhu, they were built as distilleries, so they've got lots of nooks and crannies that makes it hard to get around. But Rosebank, the whole tour is pretty much on one floor, so it's really accessible for people with accessibility issues as well. So it's great for that.
Yep. And what tour? You mentioned tour. What kind of tours are there?
Oh, there's 3 different types of tours. We've of course got a lovely reawakening tour. I would recommend that for somebody coming to Glasgow or coming to Falkirk for a lovely day. If you're coming from places like Glasgow and Edinburgh, maybe want to get a wee reawakening tour, see the place, get to try some fantastic Ian Macleod whiskies towards the end. But of course we've got rekindled and revealed as well 2 other types of tour if you want to try a wee bit of a Rosebank as well as part of your tour.
Yeah, it's a little bit more up the price range, but my goodness, it'd be worth it.
What a day out it would be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And finally, just put Andy, try and describe this night as well, just to finish off our chat with the Distillery Ambassadors. What's it been like?
It's been wonderful. It's a beautiful summer's evening. It's a blue sky. The worm tubs are standing out in their pine. The contrast and the juxtaposition between the modern and the old, it's highlighted and it really shines as a jewel in the centre of Scotland. And Falkirk is a wonderful little town that I would advise all your listeners and subscribers to come and have a look at.
Get down here. It is open now. By the time this gets out, time I edit it, I'll have been open for a number of weeks. Guys, enjoy the tours tonight.
How am I going to get to that spirit character?
First of all, Gordon, a great deal of trepidation, I think, with the expectation of producing this spirit. I think it's really a balancing act, as you well know. You know, Rosebank is well known for its triple distillation and the use of worm tubs. So really, the triple distillation part where it gives you this lovely, light, floral kind of spirit. At the same time, we combine that with worm tub condensers, which add a bit of depth and body into the whole spirit. And that really is the defining thing that Rosebank is known for, that real complexity and just the sheer complexity and depth and body in it.
And having nosed the new make spirit, we've all had a taste of it here at Ian Macleod. I think it's phenomenal. You must be really happy with how that new make spirit has evolved and you know, is now what's going to be new Rosebank.
Yeah, Gordon, very much so. You know, the spirit has some of the characteristics already that you will actually find in this whisky. So we're well on the way to replicating that style of spirit, and everyone's very happy at IMD with the results we've got at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. Fabulous. So what you have in front of you is the oldest Rosebank we've ever produced from the legacy stocks. So the stocks we got as part of the acquisition of this wonderful brand. The 32 you had downstairs is the last in that first series, the legacy series. What you have here is the oldest ever Rosebank. This is available only from here. There's 650 bottles only of this distillery exclusive, 33 years old. And what's really interesting about this whisky is how it differs a little bit, but not too much from what we've tasted before. And it's all about the casks that we've brought forward in terms of their slight different influence on that spirit, but still the spirit is absolutely the king here in terms of Rosebank. So, this is 47.6%, 33 years old, the oldest ever. So let's just have a little nose of it. It's all light, it's beautiful, it's floral, it's of course, it's got that beautiful tropical fruitness that we would of course expect. But for me, there's a little bit more of that sort of body, a little bit more maple syrup, a little bit more of that sort of richness coming through on the nose initially. Would you agree? So, 650 bottles only. This has been put together by the blending team from those old stocks, only a few casks brought together. Remember, of course, when you get to 33 years old, the amount of whiskey actually in the casks could be under half. So you've got a lot of air acting in there as well, and that's a thing that really helps develop that spirit over time, as well as a little bit of interaction from the cask. But what I find in this whiskey on the nose, it's got that richness, there's a gentle sort of spice that comes through, but nothing too strong. So let's have a taste together. Wow, what a whiskey, what a whiskey. Different to maybe what you tried before, but very much in the same area. And I think what you notice here for me, it's got that hint of, it's a bit more syrupy in the mouth, a little bit of that gentle richness coming through, which I think is as a result of those few casks that we brought together, but then that longevity in the finish that we've seen in all the Rosebanks, whether you had Flora and Fauna or you had the 32 earlier. And again, at 47.6%, I'm a great believer. Add water to whiskey if you want. I don't think this needs it. I think great whiskey, old whiskey at higher strength, the strength becomes it's just there. It's not something you notice. It's not something you're wanting to add a huge amount of water to. But again, it's up to you. I say that everywhere I go. People ask me, should I add water to my whiskey? It's up to you. It's up to you, totally up to you. But if you add a Diet Coke, we may have to have some words. So, this is our oldest whiskey, only available from here, and we say from Malcolm and ourselves, and all of us here, enjoy it. Slainte. Malcolm, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Thanks, everyone.
So enjoy the whiskey, and we'll be back for a quick...
It's been a very interesting day, and it's been a lot of hard work that's got us to this stage, and a huge amount of people I need to thank in here, but I'll keep it short and swift. I think my dad perhaps had the slightly more sexy job of welcoming everyone here. I think for me, to use his words, telling everyone to piss off. So, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. It's been an absolute privilege for us to host you here at Rosebank for the first time. It's great to see people walking around the distillery. Before I say some thanks, I'd just like to give some context to IMD. I think a lot of people, especially in the industry, forget, where we've come from over there. We're relatively new to Scotch whisky distilling. we only started distilling in 2003 when we bought Glengoyne, and then 2011 Tamdhu, 2015 Edinburgh Gin, and now Rosebank. We've come a really long way, and I think we should all acknowledge that. We're getting there. There are a number of people that I'd like to thank today, and so many teams. So apologies if I don't in advance. First of all, Brand Holmes, Stuart back there, and his team have done an absolutely fantastic job. The term "couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery" couldn't be further from the truth today. You've done an incredible job. Stuart, Stephen, Karen, Rosie, Liz, Saskia, Imogen. Well done, everyone. Really fantastic job. As well as the distillery team, Malcolm and Jason, the rest of you. The tours tonight were fantastic. Everyone tried the new make cocktails. They were just incredible. And we're really, really excited about the future of Rosebank. If the new make spirit's anything to go on, I think we've got a good future ahead of us. The attention to detail with regards to look and feel and so many elements you see in the area of the distillery and everything you've tasted tonight have been absolutely fantastic. I'd also like to thank the blending team, John and Emma, for putting together such a fantastic whiskey. This is the first time I've tried this, and it's quite special. They keep the lock and key far away from me. But so many hardworking and committed people have delivered such a high attention to detail today. It's been really amazing. And finally, I think, the people legacy, distillation know-how and dedication from our team have all come together to create something here that's, greater than its combined parts. And I think that we've done a really good job, and we should all be proud of ourselves. So a final cheers from us. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Slainte. Cheers.
Right, so that was then. Now we're going to fast forward a few weeks. I'm not going to say how many weeks, but a few weeks. And I am delighted to be joined by, well, would you mind giving me, because I don't know the official titles, your name and your title at Rosebank?
Sure, yeah. I'm Stephen. I am the brand home manager here at Rosebank Distillery.
And I'm Rosie. I'm the Distillery Experience Manager. And
both of you were name checked by Tom Russell. We just heard there thanking everyone, and your names come up during the thank you. What a night. I was there for one night, but there was 2 nights of the grand openings. They were amazing.
They were wonderful, yeah. We were both present both nights. And yeah, what a great moment to finally get people in Rosebank. We've both been here for the last year or so, working hard to get the place ready. And it's been such a privilege to see it all coming together, and to now be able to share that with people is wonderful.
Yeah. And so lovely to just take a moment and actually celebrate something you probably don't think to do when you're kind of in the heat of everything, but actually to stop and have a look at everything that's been achieved by the whole team. It was, emotional feeling.
The reason I reached out today, and some people listening to this podcast have often chided myself and Gordon Dundas for taking our time getting episodes out. Now, this is one of them. However, you mentioned achievements. I am delighted I have kept this edit so long, because what a bit of news you have just received in the last 24 hours. Could you both explain?
Yes, a very recent update. We, after being open for 1 week to the public, had a Visit Scotland quality assurance mystery visit. So this is a scheme that Visit Scotland run to assess the quality of delivery at visitor centres throughout and other attractions throughout Scotland, and they popped into Rosebank 7 days after we opened, caught us by surprise. But the team stepped up and performed wonderfully, and delighted to say that we were awarded a 5-star accreditation from Visit Scotland.
Rosie, 5 stars, that's the top level, and you've only been open 7 days?
I know, it's mad. That's what it's all about for us in sort of brand homes. It's kind of what you work towards, and to have it so quickly and with such a fresh team, it's just a testament to them really and all the hard work that's gone in. But yeah, I think hopefully they realise what a big deal it is. Couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, it's been a good few years of dealing with contractors and waiting patiently for this all to come together. And then more recently, in the last few months, bringing the team in, meeting the people, starting to get them trained up. And that's what so much of the Visit Scotland Award is weighted towards. It's not only the quality of the facilities and the cleanliness and all these things are important, but ultimately it's the people you interact with on the day that make or break your score. And the team here at Rosebank just, oh, wow. I cannot overstate how well they've done in such a short amount of time, and the genuine passion that they speak with when they talk about the distillery. They feel so lucky to be part of this project, as do Rosie and I. So it's wonderful.
We've got a flavour of that on the night, speaking to some of the distillery ambassadors that come from the local area, and you did employ from the local area, Rosie. Is that right? We've got a lot of what you might say locals on board.
Yeah, and a real mix. We've got some people that were born here and then maybe moved away and have come back. We've got some young people that have grown up here their whole lives as well. So it's really nice to sort of hear their stories and memories of Rosebank. And every time you go on someone's tour, you hear something different in their own little point of view, which is just amazing. And that's really what people are talking about, is the fact that it's a local Falkirk people that are kind of doing the tours, and that's what they're enjoying the most, I think.
That is brilliant. But I mean, the 5-star rating in 7 days. This was going to be an interview of, well, how's it been? What's the reactions of the people coming through the doors? And it is that as well. But we now know where it ends up. It ends up being the best, status you can get of a visitor attraction. But Rosie, what have been the reactions to people coming through the door? Do you remember day one, after that fancy opening we had just been hearing about? It was down to the normal day-to-day job after all that.
Yeah, absolutely. The response has just been incredible. I think for the team, it actually felt really quite natural and quite relaxed when we got into a normal working day. We were used to this sort of very busy, long days, big parties, quite a different way of doing things. And then when we got into the schedule as it would be, with kind of small groups going around throughout the day, they were like, oh, this is actually really manageable, and they just have enough time to get the message across. And I think that's what this space needs. You need a good 90 minutes at least to get the tour and the tasting, and everyone's just had nothing but good things to say. Feedback's been amazing. Yeah.
Is there anything you could sort of pull down from all the feedback, Stephen, and what's been the sort of any themes emerging from people walking around? What I can't help thinking about, there's not many distilleries in the middle of a town. You're right there. So I don't know if that's been part of it, the location and obviously.
Absolutely, that's a big part of it, and it was very much in our minds when we were recruiting. And as Rosie's talked about, it's these personal stories and the individual links that people have with the distillery that really come through and personalise their tours and make it so much more engaging for the visitor. And I think the reason that the feedback's been so strong, I mean, the 5-star award really just caps off a whole load of wonderful reviews coming in, lots of mentions for people, but the recurring theme is, I think, the genuine enthusiasm and passion that people are talking about Rosebank with. You can't fake that, and I think we deliberately went out and were looking for local people who had these links, realised that this is a big deal for not only Falkirk but whisky in general, and Ian Macleod, of course. It's a big step for the company. So I think the team just feel privileged to be a part of it, and that really comes through in how they speak.
And I suppose you don't need to admit it, but my goodness, what a lot of pressure in everybody's head, from Malcolm, the distillery manager, the production team, but my goodness, you guys as well. You've kind of got to deliver when you've been millions spent on the place. So did you feel that pressure?
Don't you hear the waver in my voice there? Yeah. Perhaps, yeah. I think that's in the back of your mind, that this is a big step for the company. It's a huge name in whisky, and it's a big thing for the town of Falkirk. So there's a lot of people coming in with very high expectations. So yeah, that was in our minds going through. Ian Macleod already does brand homes so well, and there's some great experiences being delivered at Glengoyne and Edinburgh Gin. So being the new guys, we had to kind of make sure we're up there from day one. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to do that.
Okay, great. And Rosie, you said you're going to deliver. What do you deliver? Could you give us a quick gallop if anyone's listening and think, quite fancy a little trip over summer or autumn, depending when I edit this. No, I'm joking. I'll be out soon. What is the offerings? What's been going down well? What's popular?
Yeah, so we've got 3 experiences on offer that you can book online. So Rosebank Reawakening, that's a 90-minute experience, which kind of the main focus on a lot of the story of Rosebank is that kind of mixing the old and new. So how did we get to this point and what's the plan for the future? So we talk about the new build, how we're approaching Rosebank now, and finish with a nice tasting of some Glengoyne and Tamdhu at the end. So we're really lucky that although we've got a wee bit of a weight on our hands to get some Rosebank whiskey in the glass, then we do have Glengoyne and Tamdhu that we can share. So that's been amazing. And we also can talk a little bit about how Rosebank kind of compares to those other 2 distilleries as well. So that's kind of the main focus. And 90 minutes, like I say, really good length of time. Definitely not feeling rushed through the distillery. You really get to take it in that kind of amazing, massive space that we've got as well. Then we've got Rosebank Rekindled, which is kind of following a similar story, but this is where we can introduce a dram of Rosebank. So you get to try a 31-year-old Rosebank at the end of that, along with some Glengoyne and Tamdhu as well. So a real treat. One thing we can't do is offer everybody a dram that comes in the door of Rosebank. We'd run out really quickly. So we do have to sort of limit how much we pour. So that's not really open to, what is it, about a few thousand people a year, really, on a handful.
Yeah.
And then Rosebank Revered is one of our top end experiences, and it's 3 hours long. So we've got all the time to talk all things Rosebank, go over some of the kind of old stock as well, and try a few kind of flight of Rosebank, and that's a really luxury experience that we offer.
We've talked about the how you make whiskey and all that, but how you make an experience. Was there always going to be a film at the beginning, and when you're putting together the experience that people come in, obviously it's about how the whiskey's made, but it's kind of more than that as well. So as professionals, how do you put together, I'm air quoting, an experience or a visit to this distillery or a distillery, Stephen?
Well, yeah, it's a long process with lots of people involved, and certain elements such as the video are baked in from way back because of the design of the building. You know, the architects are designing a space that will have that. So certain decisions are made way back, and then the content is decided a little bit further down the line. And I suppose the route that visitors will flow through the space, we're very spoilt here for we've got so much space to explore, and it's a new build distillery in sections, so it's perfectly accessible, which makes taking groups round an absolute dream. So it's great to be able to show everyone Rosebank. But I suppose in terms of the content, I mean, Rosie and I have both done this before elsewhere. We're both big whiskey fans that have been to our fair share of distillery tours, so you have lots of your own personal experience to bring in. We work very closely with our brand team as well, who inform a lot of the content and are really supportive in that regard. I mentioned before, we have other brand homes in Ian Macleod that also already do this very well. So there's a real wealth of knowledge within Ian Macleod that we've been able to lean on to help kind of pull together what ultimately became the Rosebank experience.
And I think, Rosie, where this scores is, I think you've got to come and see it for yourself. But yes, you do the tour, you do it at Glengoyne, but the places you go and taste at Rosebank, I mean, that is, depending what room you're in, or even it's a blooming cottage right next to the shop, which I was not expecting. So the places for tasting and for meeting is, I think that's a different level up from what we've got in any other place in Ian Macleod.
I think that, like Stephen said, we're quite spoiled really for space, and a real luxury to be able to build a distillery with a visitor experience in mind. That's not very common. Normally you're trying to fit yourself around a 200-year-old building that was never really built to have kind of tens of thousands of visitors in throughout the year. So it's just a dream to work in here, and all the spaces are absolutely beautiful, and like you say, the wee cottage and stuff, and it's all it's just easy when you've got great space, a great story, and great people. It kind of makes our job a wee bit easier.
That is a very good summary. Yeah, I completely agree.
Falkirk it's moving up there, isn't it, Stephen? This really has put it as a destination for
It really
travel.
has. It's changed a lot in the last sort of 10 years or so, and yeah, it is developing very quickly, and there's loads of great things that Falkirk has to say for itself at the moment, and Rosebank can add to and complement that offering. So it's great to be a part of that in an area that's really up and coming and has lots to offer visitors. It was at one time just a day out, and it's probably more an overnight trip now. You know, there's so much to see that it's becoming more and more of a destination, and perfectly positioned to capitalise on visitors to Edinburgh and Glasgow. Yeah.
It's going to be great. And my final question would be: is there some new make spirit to be purchased in the shop?
There is. We've got 200ml bottles of new make. It's currently the best seller every week. It's such a nice new make, one of the best that I've had in the industry.
It's amazing.
I do say so.
It is amazing, as is the gift shop. I know this is not just about the gift shop, but every destination needs a gift shop. So the new make spirit, #1 seller there. What was your thoughts about what else to include in there? Because it's quite important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We knew we were going to be pouring Tamdhu and Glengoyne on the experiences, so it was obviously we were going to make those bottles available as well. We also have some Edinburgh gin and a really lovely range of locally produced items and items that we've worked quite hard on with small kind of independent producers. So some really great bits and pieces going on in the shop, and that was a huge project again, working with the brand team. Saskia, our retail and admissions manager, has spent a lot of time pulling together all these different suppliers to create this wonderful range of that really just makes you want to explore when you're in that space. There's so much to look at, and plenty of things that you can leave to in your little gift bag to commemorate your visit to Rosebank.
It's a wonderful place to finish with. It really is. It's wonderful. Listen, I did say it would be a short interview, and of course, it never is. It never is, because we could go on and on. I also want to say about that walkway under the distillery. I don't know if you can explain that in words. I wasn't expecting that.
So we call it the street, because that is what it is. It's sort of like bringing the community back in through the distillery. So technically, even if you're not visiting, you could have a shortcut through to the canal or to Camelin Road, depending. But it's just that kind of bringing outside in and kind of bringing the community back into the grounds of the distillery as well. So it's really nice.
Very clever. It is very clever. All the old materials mixed with the new. It's all so much going on there. All I can say is get along there to the 5-star Visit Scotland distillery, the newest one, and it is Rosebank. Rosie, Stephen, I know it's not just you guys, but well done. Congratulations, and tell that to the team as well. What wonderful news.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great achievement, and it's been a busy but incredibly satisfying few months just getting this all pulled together, and now to be able to share it with all of our visitors and our team to get that instant feedback on what a great job they're doing. It's really set us off on a great foot for wonderful years to come.
No, it's great to hear that. Rather than just have the opening night, I was delighted to try and do the follow-up, and the follow-up has been every bit as successful as these opening nights as well. So it's great to hear, and validation from Visit Scotland. Rosie, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us on Whisky Unscripted.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, a pleasure.
Live from Rosebank.
So here we are. I mean, we were going to talk about this later on, but I've decided, Scott, this is such a surprise that we have to include it into the Rosebank episodes. We're going to take you to Rosebank and we'll discuss the distillery, but this is about the heritage of the distillery in bottle form. Tell me, when did you start collecting?
So it's a pleasure to meet up with you again, Gordon. As always, it's always an experience. So,
Second time on the podcast.
Indeed. No, thanks for that. As I say, it's a pleasure.
Well, I should just say, if anybody wants to listen, it was when the stills arrived, which must have been
that's right. That was indeed a big day for Falkirk and well, for everybody that's got any association, professional or otherwise, with the distillery. For me, as I say again, I'm just a local guy, really, with an interest in whisky and Falkirk in general. So that's my main interest. So when did I start collecting? Well, I know when I bought my first bottle of Rosebank, it was along with the newspapers and the rolls when I lived over in Stenhousemuir, and that would have been probably around the time the distillery closed in '93, and it was a 12-year-old Flora and Fauna. And then sort of fast forward a little bit to probably the late '90s, and I started to develop a real interest and just started to, get the bottles that were available.
Oh, that's my question. And we're going to do a collecting special, I'm sure, down the line. But why? And there's probably collectors listening right now that'll be shouting at the podcast. I'll tell you why. But why?
Well, 2 or 3 reasons. My father was in the industry, and he kind of got us interested in the sort of scientific side of whiskey. So the flavour, aroma, the organoleptic side of things. I'm a chemist by degree, so I've got a natural interest in distillation and chemical processes, and also industrial history as well. So if you pile all of those together, along with the fact that it's a very pleasurable drink, it made sense to get involved in whiskey. And I just thought, well, Rosebank's closed at the time, maybe never open again, so why don't I collect some bottles and enjoy them, with passing time. So
did you see some bottles?
Some, yeah.
I bet that's what your wife's seen.
Well, yeah.
You told me it was some bottles.
She now closes her eyes and her ears to all of this and just lets me get on with it. So
how many Rosebanks do you think you've got?
If you include miniatures, I've probably got about 250 full-size bottles and about 50 miniatures, roughly, something like that.
Well, we're looking at some of the fine examples of them. Top shelf, I can see this is. Now we talked about this Distillers Agency, which was based in Edinburgh, which a number of distillers used to ship their products abroad.
Yes, that's right.
So this is a Distillers Agency release we're looking at.
Yeah. So again, I don't know absolutely the sort of the heritage or the genealogy of that company, but my understanding is that they were an outlet for a lot of the output from Rosebank at the time, the 70s, probably in the 60s, 70s, 80s. A lot of that output found its way into particularly Italy, Germany, Scandinavia, places like that. And so on these bottles you can see they've got the designation of the Distillers Agency Limited.
Yeah, this is Zenith, Italia.
Zenith, so exported by the Distillers Agency and imported by Zenith in Italy.
Yeah.
They're the sole agent and, what does that say? Importer.
Yeah. That's a 12-year-old.
Yeah, so that's 12-year-old at 43%. That was the kind of export strength. So it tended to be, for the most part, 40% by volume for bottles in the UK and 43 for the export strength. So that's normally how you would tell whether it's UK bound or European bound.
And we're just talking earlier on when you very kindly gave me a small taste of some of the Rosebanks, which are marvellous. Percents and CL sort of implies and indicates we joined the European Union, but it's EEC at that time, 1973 onwards.
Yeah, that's right. So you'll see some of the bottles here have got the old volume and strength.
So what does that say?
26 and 2/3 fluid ounces, which equates to roughly 70 CL, and 80 proof, which again equates to more or less the 40% by volume.
So what these says Rosebank single malt Scotch whisky, you're looking at 60s?
These would be these two here would be from the probably from the mid 60s onwards. Difficult to date exactly, because they've got no vintage on them, but from about that time, yeah.
And interestingly, I was just mentioning unblended on the label. Unblended single malt whiskies are interesting description, but you see that quite a lot in some of the older bottles.
I mean,
not just a Rosebank.
Not just Rosebank, but maybe I would say particularly Rosebank, because it's almost like a kind of double. They're emphasising two things.
Yeah,
rather.
Trying to tell the world you're drinking blends.
Both of those words are almost mean the same: unblended and single.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you could probably argue that that term became superfluous.
But they're really trying to tell the world.
But they're trying to tell the world this
single.
is pure.
Yeah.
This is absolutely pure.
And if you look at this one, I think this is one you get 26 2/3 fluid ounces,
Yes.
as you've mentioned.
Yes.
Celebrated pure malt.
Yeah.
Which would go on to mean pure malts sometimes meant a blended malt in the 80s and 90s, and they decided to try and clean up the
standardise the nomenclature.
But in the
for
old
the
days,
for
that
the
just
labelling,
meant it was a pure malt whiskey.
Yes.
Not a blend.
Not a blend.
So it says Rosebank Distillery, Falkirk, Stirlingshire. Wonderful.
Yeah, and then the other one there, quite similar, 80 proof, 26 2/3. Again, the wording's different. Single malt this time rather than pure malt. So again,
I know
they were obviously experimenting and playing around with the wording at that point.
Right. Okay. So we've got an amazing top shelf here. What in the dickens is going on up here? You've actually got a little platform. It looks like it did say rare malt selection. This looks like it's from the company, or is it Diageo that produced them? This looks like a genuine little shelf that they sit on. You've managed to. How did you acquire that? And could you tell us what is in that shelf? That looks amazing.
Yeah, so those were what you might consider to be the OBs, the original bottles, meaning, rather than being from an independent bottler.
Okay.
So a lot of these are from late 70s onwards. The rare malts are quite famous within people who know the Diageo output. They put together a range from about 20 distilleries, I think, something like that. And there was 4 separate bottlings from Rosebank, so we were quite lucky that they chose to bottle 4, and they range in age from 19 to 22, and they're quite high, high strength, 60.2, 60.3, 62.3, and 61.1. So full cask strength.
And that's a single cask. That's his bottle number.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a bottle number. It's not a cask number. Sorry.
Again, as far as I know, it's not single cask. I think these would have been Vatings, but relatively low output, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 bottles, something like that.
And where would you get these when you acquire these? Is this on auction?
These are all at auction.
Right.
Aye. I mean, I'm 58. I know I don't look at Gordon,
No,
but
not after the second whiskey today.
So I kind of missed these first time round, but so had to buy most of these bottlings at auction. I did get the 21s and the 25, which were bottled in the mid 90s or so. I did get those when they came out.
And that's the part of the rare malt series as
No,
well?
those aren't rare
single
malts.
releases?
They're just single releases. Yeah, that's right. I think.
25. Holy.
Sorry, I'm getting my years mixed up. These were around 2010 to 2014, something like that, in terms of when they were bottled.
Okay, yeah.
Take 25 off that, and you're back in, you're back to the 80s, 90s. But as I say, these would be considered the original bottles, the original bottlings, and I've got to say, Diageo come up for criticism sometimes from people, from enthusiasts, but these bottlings are wonderful. Yeah, they really are.
I think you find Ian Macleod, I've got nothing good to say about Diageo.
Yeah,
because
I'm sure
that's how the deal was done to get Rosebank.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we're absolutely,
and we can't
delighted.
wait to taste their output. So.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go down there shortly.
Yeah.
But then you go down your collection, and it's only a small selection compared to the 250 odds you've got, but you've now got some. I see Cadenheads, and I see the Scottish Malt Whisky Society, and our good friends at Gordon MacPhail, Connoisseur's Choice.
Indeed. So you're into the sort of independent bottlers now, and there's a good number of those who have treated Rosebank very well. So we've had many bottlings from Cadenheads over the years, all very good. from the kind of early teens up to 22-year-old, differences in finish, sherry, bourbon, mixed.
All right.
Similarly, they tend all to be at cask strength. As you can see, Connoisseur's Choice tend to be 40 or 43, but again from the mid 80s through to the early noughties. 10, 12, 14 years old, with the different styles of labels. The old map label, some people would describe these ones as.
Yeah.
And then the sort of blue Connoisseur's Choice label, perhaps the classic. And then to the Scotch Malt Whisky Society itself, which has always been something I've really been interested in and tried to buy where I could, the bottlings, and I've got quite a number of those. So I don't have a 1, but the Rosebank number was 25. For those who don't know how the numbering works in Scotch Malt Whisky Society, Rosebank's 25, so it's the 25th distillery that they bottled from. Okay, yeah. And you've got the sequential numbers from the single casks that they've output from. So I've got a 2 there, as you can see, and I've got a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6, but I don't have a 1.
Surprise me. It's not so. We'll put a call out,
and maybe over this side you'll see that there's a lot more. So.
Right. So we have another door opens up. We could talk endlessly about there, but just some of your favourites. What's your highlights? You're just looking. I'm looking at a whole wall of Rosebanks.
Well, as we were saying earlier on, one of the precursors, or if that's the right word, or complementary whiskies to some of the Rosebank is King George IV.
I am very interested in this. Carry on.
Which is the blend, the Distillers Agency blend that was around and about in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And some of my favourite bottles are actually of King George IV blended whisky, which is very good and certainly has, we believe, a fair percentage of Rosebank in it.
Yeah. Well, which is nice. Said it was the blender's whisky of choice.
It was a blender's whisky. Absolutely. So they're nice. I do like the Scotch Malt Whisky Society ones. I've tried to buy as many of those as I can.
No, you don't say. You don't say. There's 2 shelves. No, 3 shelves.
And maybe another favourite, which I'll go back to this side if you don't mind. Sorry for the.
Look, it's on the miniatures and some of the independent bottlers. Hello to Marink David. Hello to the Dormant Distillery Company. I mean, it's
you've got Signatory there. That's one from 65. That's a look at the colour of
look
that.
Look at the colour of that. That's a really dark shade one.
Yeah. But maybe one of my favourites was. So I was born in 66. So that's an old. Cadenhead's Black and White label from November 66. So that's my birth year. So
it's a fine year.
That probably means quite a lot to me. Yeah, and those again. I mean, I've never tasted that particular bottle, but that range of whiskies are actually very, very good.
Yeah, right.
Quite well known amongst collecting and enthusiast circles. So
and the range is called.
So that's Cadenhead's Black and White labels.
Black and White labels.
Yeah.
I thought I knew my whiskies there, but I'm just every day's a learning.
This one,
wow.
Again, might mean something. George Strachan, originally a Boyne in Aberdeenshire. The significance of this one is it's 34 years old and it's got the old strength. So we think this one's probably pre-war or around about the war.
Yeah.
So it's in bad condition. The label's not great and the level's low, but to have a whiskey from that era.
Probably your oldest one.
It's probably my oldest one, yeah. And then sort of zooming forward to Sukinder and the Whisky Exchange.
Oh yes, we know them.
So these guys, they produced a lovely series of bottles of 7 in total. And they released them every Valentine's Day for 7 years. So there's 7 in the series, and they've all got their individual sort of.
Nice.
It's a kind of true love
Lovely.
series.
Yeah.
The, you know, majoring on the link in with the rose, that meaning love and all that kind of stuff.
Of course it is.
But again,
there.
all 21 years old, cask strength, and very nicely presented.
Really nice. I've seen the original box.
I've just got one on display, but I've got the others up the stairs. So
that doesn't surprise me, Scott. Listen, that's we could go on. We've got so much to get through in this episode, but that has been quite. It's a cornucopia of Rosebanks there. When I met you in the street, and then of course I met you in the Baltic.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Rosebank.
And it was Baltic.
That was Baltic. I just had to go outside on that boat just to see, is it Baltic? And it was. But we met there as well, and the common denominator was Rosebank. So you just have to keep on listening to find out if Scott Jackson, must be one of the world's biggest Rosebank collectors, actually likes and appreciates what we've done to the old ruins with the new Rosebank.
Well, I'd be happy to give you a few words once I've had a wee look inside. And
well, let's not rush. Let's just finish off what we started in the next room. That other room there, that was very nice. George IV, we're just trying that with some of the early.
Yeah, the Distillers Agency ones from the 70s, 80s, which are for me. You can certainly feel or taste the spine of that King George IV blend through into the pure malt or the single malt.
If we're allowed, we'll take a couple of photographs and just put it up on the website. It just shows people, if they're listening to this, to get to the Whisky Unscripted Facebook page and come and see some of these photographs.
Not a problem.
That would be wonderful. Scott, let's join the dramming.
Cool.
Cheers. So yeah, after seeing the collection, we're now in Rosebank. We've just had a great day there, going round the distillery. Now, Scott, what's your initial reactions to the distillery? You've seen it for the first time since 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, so the last time I was round the distillery was it was in a sad old state. It was in the early noughties. It was silent, and there was birds in the still house, broken windows. It was cold, lifeless, and it was just pretty horrible. Seeing it today, it's quite emotional for a guy from Falkirk to walk round this, because it's absolutely magnificent what they've done here. Everybody involved in this project should be really, really proud of what they've done. They've brought this end of the town back to life, and bringing Rosebank back to life is just fantastic.
Yeah. Quite surprised at some of the bits they've done, and just how it looks, and some of the old materials with the new materials, like that juxtaposition that works, I think.
Yeah, so the architects have got to be commended for the actual design and managing to keep as much of the actual old traditional material as possible, but they've brought that together nicely with all the new materials, and the overall outcome is just fantastic.
I think that view from the Stillhouse is just fabulous. You're looking out onto the Forth and Clyde Canal. The reason we're here as a distillery, and you're just above the road and you're looking down the canal. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, it is. I can't think of anything else in Scotland. I've been around a lot of the distilleries, not all of them obviously, but I don't think there's anything in Scotland like this that is on the edge of a sort of fairly major town. That is, making a manufacturing process.
That's a very good quiz question.
But
in the middle of a town.
But is doing this. Just working away, making spirit, which hopefully will come to maturation and be great. But on the edge of town, a busy town, it's just there. Symbiotic with the town, and it's just wonderful. What can I say? It's been an emotional day for me, really. To see this for the first time.
Well, we've had quite a tour of Rosebank today, from your whiskies to a little drop of the
Yeah, a wee touch of the 33-year-old there just to cap the day off nicely. And aye, what a dram! I know that was the previous, previous owner's output, but nevertheless,
our blending team putting that together and deciding to put the cask together.
Absolutely,
how does that stack up to?
Got to be commended for that. I mean that's to be honest with you, that's as good as it gets. I would put that up against any whisky that I've tasted, to be honest, in that style. Wow. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So,
and you think, looking forward, this is going to be a big draw for not just the community here, but the wider tourists that are maybe listening to this round the world. People will come here. I
really hope they do come to Falkirk, because it's not, it's never had the sexiest of reputations, but when you tie this into the Kelpies and the Falkirk Wheel and Calendar House and all of that, and you marry that with the passion of the people that I've met today. I've met a few of the staff who are absolutely and utterly invested in this project. Then I think anybody who's in the area or planning a visit to Scotland should come here, and they'll be met. They'll have a really warm welcome, and they'll have a great experience. So I really hope so.
I hope so. And one thing they could do after the tour is do what you did this morning. Well, this afternoon.
I guess. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
James Rankin.
Yep.
Could walk from here.
Yep.
It's 10 minutes to go to the resting place of James Rankin, the founder, 1840, and his good wife, just down there. Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. So he died in 1859, and we were there, Gordon and I, earlier today. We went along and we toasted.
We did.
We toasted the great man. It says it on his headstone, Rosebank Distiller. So it's there, and it's within walking distance of the distillery. So I hope people visit that as well.
That's fantastic. Now, as you say, you've already mentioned some of the tourist attractions around here that you could make that part of your day. So it really is becoming a very major decision for tourists to come to Scotland, to come here, as opposed to maybe the same old. This is going to change up add something to the distillery landscape.
Definitely. So, a lot of people that come to Scotland will come to Glasgow or Edinburgh, or at some point will be in Glasgow or Edinburgh. So please get on that train and stop off at Falkirk High.
Yes.
And you're only, a short roll down the hill, and we've got Rosebank and a lot to offer. So yeah,
Scott,
come here.
A magnificent day. Thank you very much. Let me shake your hands. Thank you for your hospitality
Brilliant.
today. I'm glad we take you around Rosebank, and I'm
excellent.
Delighted you enjoyed it.
I'll be back.
I think I've heard that line before. Well, my thank you to Scott Jackson there, and what a chap, great collection. And my next two guests, I kind of teased they could come along to see Scott Jackson's Rosebank collection and maybe drink some, but guys, I kind of forgot to ask you. It happened so last minute, so basically I drank your share. Welcome to the podcast to finish off this special, Malcolm Rennie, who we've heard earlier on the platform doing the speech, and his assistant distillery manager, Jason McCabe. Welcome.
Hi, Gordon. Hi, Gordon. How you doing?
Well,
nice to see you again.
Thank you. I'm doing much better because what a day I had there with Scott Jackson. 250 bottles, as you've heard, and about 60 odd miniatures. Over 300 bottles of Rosebank.
How many bottles did you get through, Gordon?
We had a wee hit of about 4 of them.
I'm surprised.
So that was amazing. But listen, I wanted to get you on. What was that night like, Malcolm? That was
absolutely fantastic. Yeah, what a night. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And we heard you tasting the 33. I mean, you guys are making the new make spirit, but there's something 33 years old. That's
a lot to live up to, that one, though, Gordon.
Yeah. Yes, Scott, you maybe listen to the show later on, but Scott Jackson said that's as good as anything in his collection. 33.
Oh, that's nice to know, man. Yeah,
that's gone back some. So, Jason, how are we doing?
Very well. Gordon, how are you?
We didn't see you on the opening night, the first night, so the invitation may have got waylaid. But
no, I was at the second night.
Right.
Listen, it's been a hell of a year. I mean, really, we're recording this in early July 2024. In early July 2023, the first cask was filled. That's been some year.
Yeah, you say that again, it certainly has, and time's flown by.
From the filling of the first cask to today, nothing's changed. Is everything as it was, or have you had to tweak?
No, we've changed a few tweaks here and there, thanks to the new make, you know, in various different ways that we've kind of slightly tweaked that to make it the way we exactly want it. Aye, so we did the first mash on the 5th of June, I think. 5th of June, yeah. And that was a momentous occasion, Gordon.
Right, okay.
What
I really want to know is, how do you start a distillery? You guys got the job, you turn up at Rosebank once it's all built. Do you have any say in how it's built, Malcolm or Jason? Or if you don't, you turn up, and what happens in day one?
Not with this one, Gordon. It was kind of all sorted out before I arrived, to be honest. So I'm basically starting with the equipment that's been designed by others. I mean, it's fine. But yeah, I mean, starting up is always kind of difficult, that first mash.
What do you do? Do you have to have I believe you got to have a license to make alcohol?
Oh yeah, so obviously, yeah. So myself and Robbie, we spent a few months getting the distiller's license before we could actually start distilling or start producing spirit. Yeah. So that was probably a 3 or 4 month, you know, journey to get that sorted out, and we actually got it at the very last minute, didn't we, before we were due to start. So that was quite good.
Literally, you've got to have that hand paper.
You've got to have that distiller's license before you can even mash in. Well, you can mash in, but as soon as you put yeast into what to make alcohol, then that's what you need the license for.
Okay. Yeah. And Jason, on day one, I mean, is it a mash? Is that you just got to? What's the first piece of machinery? What's the first button you have to hit? What happened?
Well, it wasn't actually us that hit the start button, believe it or not. Yeah. It was Leonard Russell. Now that's not, he wasn't invited to do that, but by pure coincidence, he actually turned up the first day that we done our first mash. So we got him to sit in the throne, and he started the sequence, which was a nice thing to do actually. When we think back to it, it was nice for him because he's so passionate about Rosebank. But yeah, from our point of view, it's a bit nerve-wracking because if you imagine loads of things running in unison, all have to work at the same time, you know, you're sitting there with a wee bit of anticipation of what's going to be the end result. But our first mash went relatively
yeah, we should say there's the element of commissioning before that first mash, Gordon. So no, we test everything with hot water first.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yes, but you can't test it with the grist until you actually do that first mash. So that's the unknown factor, isn't it?
Yeah, everything running together.
And a rough timeline, just of the edited highlights. Obviously, I tried to ask Netflix to follow you, like they follow Formula One or they follow the golfers, and they have cameras, right? You know, when you're in the toilet and things. So this was a Netflix 6-part series. What were the highlights from that first button being pressed to the first cask being filled? Was it plain sailing, or was there ups and downs?
Yeah, we had quite a few problems, in the least, but we were quite a resilient lot here, Gordon, so we overcame them all pretty relatively easily.
I've discovered why most distillery managers have no hair, Gordon, because I've kind of followed that. So now I had loads of hair before I started.
So was it just things not working, valves not, and trying to?
It was just some process equipment problems, Gordon. Yeah, but I mean, we managed to get all around it. So the first mash was on June the 5th. So that led us to a fermentation, which went fine. And then we actually had our first distillation of the wash still on Thursday, the 8th of June. Now that was quite a momentous occasion as well. See the first spirit come into the spirit safe. Although it was only low wines, to be honest, but and we followed that on to the first actual spirit run that came through the spirit still was on the 13th of June. Now that was a big day.
Yeah, that's the day it sticks in my mind.
Yeah. So that was the day. So that first spirit run, we actually captured quite a fair bit of that run as samples to use in the future. With some various tastings and things that were going to be happening soon, I think.
Yeah.
So that's all to come. And then that's when you obviously you get the first inkling of the spirit you're going to produce.
See, that's if I was doing a Netflix program, Malcolm, Jason, that would be the tension. The music would be playing, you know, just before the stills start to flow, and you get the temperature up to 7 to 8 degrees, and the vapors, and you're sitting tensely waiting. What can go wrong? I know it didn't, but what were you what was your worst fears at that spirit run?
Well, yeah, it's flow rate and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's also quite key
yes,
to-
aye. So bring it in nice and slow. You don't want to boil it and run it in far too fast and things like that. But I mean, I'm fairly relaxed with that kind of thing, Gordon. As you know, I've done it before a few times, so
yes,
it wasn't really a great stress for me personally. Maybe for Jason, I'm not sure. But
Jason, potentially 4 times in this podcast.
I know, I was thinking that.
Under the Glengoyne banner, I think. So going from Glengoyne, and that's where I started as well, I still have a little bit of trouble getting my head around a triple distillation. You've came from a simultaneous double distillation at Glengoyne, where it's 3 stills. So if you walked into the Glengoyne still house, you think, well, there's 3. And you walk into Rosebank still house, oh, there's 3 as well. So could you just explain the Rosebank setup? I mean, for me, could you keep the second still running and make spirit and walk away and think, we've done it?
Well, technically speaking, you can.
Technically speaking,
okay.
Yeah. I think even just covering triple distillation, the biggest thing that I've learned from Malcolm, and I think it was new to Malcolm as well, was the worm tubs more, was the kind of, you can, it's easy enough to produce a kind of fruity character on a pot still, especially, running them slowly. And I suppose similar with Glengoyne, they're going through shell and tube, but it's what the worm tub does to that spirit at the end that changes everything. So, Malcolm had a rough indication, but I think we were more focused on what it was going to be like when it's condensed. So we knew it was, you run it slower, it's going to be fruitier, it's going to be lighter, but what's going to happen when it goes through that worm tub? So we had a bit of experience of that from Glengoyne, as in running slowly and maximum copper contact. But worm tubs are, I'll be honest, new to me. I didn't know what to expect.
Well, I think if I had any fear at all, it was going to be that the spirit was possibly going to be too light with the triple distillation. And a bit one-dimensional, but certainly those worm tubs are having a huge impact on the actual final spirit that we're producing.
It's amazing. Worm tubs.
No, it's so you've nosed it and you've tasted it, Gordon. It's really quite viscous.
Yes.
And it's big and it's oily and it's got those, but it's also got all the signature characteristics that classic Rosebanks has. It still has that lightness, that slight fruitiness, that bit of floral, that citrus in it. I think they're all the important elements that we've managed to capture in the spirit that we're now happy with. We've settled on an actual profile that we're happy with, and we're just going to keep distilling to that profile.
It's amazing. It's a brilliant spirit. But I was doing a tasting of it, sticking to the side of the glass. I only thought whiskey did that from the cask, but there you go. There was a viscosity in the spirit that left a ring.
A huge amount of that comes from the worm tubs.
Right. Well, on worm tubs, I've never dealt with them. Do you have to keep topping them up? And could you explain for the lay person just exactly what is a worm tub and how it interacts with the vapour coming up the stills?
Yeah, well, think about your moonshiners. You see the moonshiners would have a whiskey barrel with a copper coil going down the middle. The cask itself would be filled with water. Basically, we just have humongous versions of a similar thing. But shell and tube condensers obviously have much more contact with the spirit, so they'll make you'll catch any of the unwanted compounds from the distillation more. So basically, worm tubs are a less efficient method of cooling than what a shell and tube would be, and the spirit does, in a sense, have less contact. So Malcolm's just said, with the his worry was it was going to be, too bland, but there's so much character getting added from these worm tubs because it's condensing quicker and there's less copper contact. Because you think a shell and tube condenser is just hundreds of little pipes, so there's maximum surface area. Where if you've just got one large diameter pipe going in a worm, the vapours have a lot less contact, or
it's all about a lower copper contact with the worm tubs,
Yeah.
And historically they were used obviously in the past, but now shell and tube condensers are much more common. Obviously,
that's right. I think in the 1960s, virtually everyone got rid of them.
They're much more efficient, much smaller. You don't have to take up the space that a huge worm tub has. less maintenance in them, all that kind of stuff. That's really probably the main reason why most distilleries moved away from them.
Well, that's a point. Remember, Mark, I think we're talking, and there was a big crane brought in the stills, but wasn't even a bigger one. Had to be brought in for the women's pubs.
Yeah, no, they're huge, they're absolutely huge. Yeah. So the coils in them are between 60 and 70 meters long before it goes when it condenses in the top of the worm tub before it reaches back to the safe again. So it goes on. The spirit goes on quite a journey.
Well, and earlier on in the podcast, we're just listening to some of the distillery ambassadors speak, but just for people that like to tick off these things, could you give us a quick some of the facts, the litres per annum, for example, and how many mashes are you doing a week? Just some of the technical production things.
Yeah, so at the moment we do a 3.2 ton mash. We're doing 17 mashes per week, so that's us in full production. We've only been in full production since October last year. Yeah. So that on an annual basis, that's around about 1 million litres. Just interestingly, I was just looking at all my figures this morning, and so from June last year till the end of June this year, we've actually still managed to produce 900,000 litres, which is no mean feat, I think. Because we started off pretty slowly last June. So June, July, August, September, we kind of started 6 mashes and then stepped up to 8 and then up to 10. So it wasn't until October we were actually in full 17 mash, 24/7 production. Yeah.
And that's in spite of all the journalists trying to knock your door down and get in and have chats.
Yeah.
Get out of my way! I'm a producer. I'm trying to make whiskey.
I think it's quite important to acknowledge that as well, Gordon. Yeah. It was quite strange for us because you know the size of Rosebank, not just the production facilities, but the visitor facilities. And there was 7 of us in total. 7 of us in total for the whole site during this period. And it was weird. You know, it was weird being in such a big, vast site. We're not seeing MD here.
And now you have, plus you're in the middle of a city. Now, I don't know, Malcolm, and your distilleries, and I know Jason McGlengoyne, you're kind of in the countryside, but this is, has been spoken about, quite unique.
Yes, this is a very urban distillery, isn't it? So, you know, very triangular shaped site. So we've got the Photoclide Canal on one side, we've got Camelin Main Road on the other, and we've got a set of flats on the other side. So we're quite restricted in the site we have. Yeah.
I do miss the countryside a little bit. There's other entertaining things that happen when you're in a city that you can see.
And you can get a tank of petrol quite quick to Rosebank compared to Glen.
You can be quite quick too.
Well, that's brilliant. Listen, Big Gordon's not here. I was wondering if you'd do me the honour of jumping on a new feature that I'm doing. And basically, this year is election year. We're recording this a day before the UK election. France will have been to the polls, are going to the polls. Biden and Trump are facing off this November. India, the biggest democracy in the world, have just completed their elections. So elections all over the world. I just wondered, guys, if you would mind helping me draft my Malt Manifesto for my Scottish Malt Whisky Party.
You taking on the SNP?
I'm taking on everyone, Jason, because I reckon, I just need to tell, can you, yay or nay, should this go in the manifesto before I take this to the people? Boys, yes or no for the manifesto? I will reintroduce dramming, not just for distillery workers, but for every worker or volunteer in Scotland. Not 3 a day like the old days, a modest 1 small nip at the end of your shift. I will install dramming booths beside water coolers, and each worker can raise a glass to our fine country. And at age 50, everyone should be entitled to a small quarter cask. Yay or nay? Malt Manifesto.
Yeah, why not?
You just said you just said
why not?
Boys, here's another one for the Malt Manifesto. Anyone in a bar who's drinking Scotch whisky should be allowed to stay behind after closing time to finish off their dram with no rush. Everyone else can get kicked out.
That's a yay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Yes.
Absolutely.
These might be difficult to implement, but that's
Yeah.
you know. Also, a couple more. If you ask, if you're not be funded by my government, if you were drinking a sherry matured Scotch, you're entitled to free tapas. If you're drinking a bourbon barrel matured whiskey, possibly a corn dog, up to the price of £3.50. Okay, we're going to get to maturation. We'll finish off maturation. And let's just say 2 more. All those attending whisky festivals abroad, if you're going to a whisky festival abroad, you should be entitled to go through airport express security free of charge.
Absolutely, yes, 100%, yeah.
Thank you. And even get to the front of the plane so you can get to that festival first. And finally, if anyone purchases a bottle of Scotch whisky, you're supporting the economy, so you get a free game of golf anywhere in this country.
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You just abandon the tax on whisky. Would that not be a better idea, Scott?
That would be a better idea. That 10% hike that puts us around, we're the highest taxed country on Scotch in the G7, and I think we're almost double the tax of France for Scotch.
For our national drink.
That would certainly benefit everyone, that's for sure.
It certainly would. Now, I mentioned a wee bit, thank you for taking part in the Malt Manifesto, boys. You can be the foreign minister and the Minister of Distilling. Maturing, it's about bourbon matured whiskey. Just a quick word about what we are putting Rosebank into.
So I think we're trying to put it in as many refills as we can, Gordon. Narrative, they're pretty hard to come by, decent ones anyway. So I think the vast majority of it's going to be in fresh bourbon with some sherry. And there's a few other wee experiments, I think, going on.
Yes.
Me keep it top secret, Gordon.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. Nobody's going to listen to this part. They've heard the Malt Manifesto and switched off long ago. But yes, that's interesting. Some sherry just for maybe experiment. But the big part of the chat with the industry at the moment is the lack of casks. Everybody's wanting to become a distiller. Everybody needs casks, so the demand is huge. Yeah, so
I think it's probably a good point now. Decent casks as well, Gordon.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important that you put it in the decent. We're not going to all the trouble to make this fantastic spirit and put it in inferior casks. That's for sure.
I suppose that's why Ian Macleod will get quite a track record in acquiring casks. So I suppose we've got better than most at a new distillery to get these casks. I would imagine our reach is big around the world.
No, you just need to taste Glengoyne and Rosebank, Glengoyne and Tamdhu to realise that, Gordon, that the casks are there.
Guys, I'm not going to keep you much longer, but it's wonderful to see that, you know, Rosebank's back online. If you do a flight of whiskey, you can now do a flight of whiskey from Tamdhu, which is our Highland side. We may have Lagan Bay in the future, or Isla, Glengoyne, or Highland, and now Rosebank, our Lowland distillery. So we can do a flight of Ian Macleod by region. And also, Jason, you could do a flight of Malcolm Rennie.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more than what you just listed, though.
Of all the distilleries that Malcolm has started or been connected to,
like a plan, by the way. That sounds like a good night.
Could you, both of you, what would be the flight, a Malcolm Rennie flight? Because I think this is the future, doing flights of whiskey based on people, not just regions or flavour styles. Jason, what would you suggest? The first Malcolm whiskey.
For Holman?
I'd maybe raise you a Loch Lee. Malcolm, would you like to suggest one for your own flight?
Well, Annandale was another one of mine.
Holman, Loch Lee, Annandale. Rosebank goes without saying, but maybe if it's a long flight, there's one or two distilleries that you have been connected to. Would you like to suggest a couple of for our flight?
I've previously worked, so Bruichladdich.
Oh, nice.
So you could do an unpeated Bruichladdich. And also, probably, I must say, my favourite would be our Beg. Maybe a Corrie Brecon or something like that.
You know, just before you go, Gordon, I was at the Glasgow Whisky Festival last year. A few of Malcolm's distilleries were there, and I was with my friends at the time, and they went, "How many distilleries has your boss worked for?" Because everyone went up and said, "Oh, do you know Malcolm Rennie?" I was like, "Yes, I know Malcolm Rennie. That was Loch Lee," and we had connections to King's Barn with another staff member that was here, and you know, it was just amazing walking around and saying, "I'll try that because I've not tried that before." And it was Malcolm's it'd be Malcolm's really most of it.
It would be.
So that was quite interesting.
I would mention this before, but I think there's definitely a future in the flights by people.
By individual, Oh, that sounds good, Gordon.
Quite nice by managed. Listen, I'm not going to keep you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to top off the episode with you guys, because that's the first, the middle, and the last is about the whiskey.
And your listeners need to come here because it is very, very impressive.
Oh yes, goes without saying.
It's great, and as I said, I did a tasting for some of the locals down behind the wall. A little mention for them. Nice bar in Falkirk, and it's great there. So go to Rosebank, On the way past, you can salute James Rankin's grave. We mention it in this podcast. Our founder of 1840 laid to rest with his wife just down the road. And there are other bars in Falkirk, but that's a cracking one, the Behind the Wall, and they know their whiskey in there as well. With a great night. So thank you very much for joining us on Whiskey Unscripted, and see you in Rosebank very, very soon.
Bye, Gordon. All the best, Gordon. Cheers, now. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Staying ahead on the whiskey trail. Oh, staying ahead on the whiskey trail.